Hello again. First of all, I'd like to apologise for the title of this video, Why Are New Caravans Rubbish? I think it might qualify as clickbait, but I'm not sure. I might have to check on that. The reason I need to apologise is because I don't think this is actually true. But I follow some forums and Facebook pages and often find myself defending the manufacturers against the kind of strange hate post that normally goes something like this. The manufacturers don't care about the customers, all they want is their money and that's it. Why can't I make a caravan without all these issues in this day and age? They cost enough and my caravan must have been made on a Friday afternoon, and so on. The manufacturers are also seen as a faceless conglomerate of evil people rubbing their hands together, laughing at the stupid customers they force into buying their rubbish caravans. Well, that might be overdoing it a bit, but some of the threads I've seen are not far off that. So stay right here and I'll try and dispel this opinion. And I know I'm up against it somewhat, but let's see how it goes. So as I said, I know I'm opening myself up for a bit of a kick-in. And if you want to do this after everything I'm about to say, please do so in the comments below. It might be an interesting read if nothing else. So what are the problems we're seeing with our new caravans? Well, it can range from a leaking heating system like the post that inspired me to do this video, to cracking windows, the caravan system's not working like the pump, the lighting system, or water getting in when it rains. Pretty much anything that can go wrong, all can go wrong. I fully understand how the customer feels when these products that can range from £16,000 up to £35,000 and beyond go wrong, and how frustrating it is to have issues, especially at a time when you should be out enjoying your significant purchase on a nice sunny site somewhere, preferably in Cornwall. But I get frustrated with the kind of comments that always seem to turn up on the forums that paint the manufacturers in the kind of ways that I mentioned before, without the understanding of how these products are put together and the commercial pressures that they're all under. But don't get me wrong, I'm not playing the smallest violin in the world, making excuses for the manufacturers. I have my own frustrations with them. But I'm in a position to be able to see things from both points of view. And I think in some instances the manufacturers do get undue criticism. The problems are not confined to one manufacturer or range of caravan or motorhome. They all have the same problems and pressures to contend with. And if the customer has a problem with a Swift and swears they'll never buy one again, they could very well end up having the same problems with another manufacturer, or could just as likely have no problems ever again. I think the first reason people say negative things about the manufacturers is a lack of understanding of the scale of our industry. I often see a comparison between the caravan industry and the car industry. I suppose this is because they have similar kinds of products, similar costs, and have a similar buying process, and are obviously used together. So just to give you a bit of an idea of the difference between the two, as an industry we sell from 20 to 25,000 caravans a year. The car industry sells 1.5 million vehicles a year. It's like the comparison of me selling coffee from my shop using a kettle, a spoon and a pot of instant coffee compared to Costa. So why is this important to understand? Well, the infrastructure that the car industry has and the investment they can put into their supply of parts and the research and development of their products is on another level compared to what the caravan manufacturers can even dream of. The car manufacturers can spend vast amounts of money on developing their products and they can have them fully tested before they even go into the market. Unfortunately, the caravan manufacturers just don't have this luxury. We are in a situation where new construction methods and techniques and even new products from the supplying manufacturers go through the final development process out in the field, which means they get the products as good as they can in the factory and then they're put into the caravans. But due to the small amount of real world data that is available to them, it seems, in my experience anyway, that it takes around 3 years to sort out all those teething problems, whether it's a new fridge, a water heater, sealant or even a complete construction method. Because that's the length of time needed to get enough data to refine the things that they just didn't or couldn't know at the time of production. Again, I'm not excusing the issues we have, I'm just trying to put them in context and give you a bit of a background as to why they can happen. So, we can't compare the caravan industry to the caravan industry just on the basis of scale. And just to add something else, even with all their resources and all their sales that the car industry have, I've had plenty of conversations with customers and friends about their cars having to go back to the dealer for numerous times for warranty work. So if they can't get it right, can we really expect a cottage industry like ours to be able to achieve it? The other difference between the two are how the products are put together. Accuracy is the key to the product's performance. The caravan manufacturers have cottoned onto this and some are now stopping using wood, which is a natural material and cannot be controlled, and have moved on to using composite materials which can be altered depending on their purpose for weight and durability. And these new materials have the added benefit of being impervious to water. The old caravan sides used to be put together using a jig with a man with a saw to cut out the windows. This just doesn't produce a consistent finish and every caravan ended up being slightly different. They now spend millions of pounds on laser guided tools to ensure that every side, roof and floors are cut to millimetre perfection, and actually the tolerance is much smaller than that. which enables a consistent finish and also helps cut down on waste to save money in the long run. Which is great, but also add to that the car manufacturers have assembly lines with a far greater level of automation, whereas caravans are still put together by people with screwdrivers and spanners. Due to their complexity, it would be impossible to build robots to put a caravan together and eliminate the human error factor, which is the point I'm finally getting to. Caravans are built by people, and where we have products that are built by people, we will inevitably have mistakes made by people, which is what we see in the products when they are delivered to the end customer. Most of these mistakes are either spotted at factory by their internal processes or picked up by the PDI at the dealer. But it is inevitable that some issues can still be missed due to the complicated nature of the components in the caravan. And because they are quickly assembled down the line, you may get an electrical connector that didn't quite fit together, or a water pipe that wasn't quite pushed in far enough, which just cannot be picked up on PDI, but can cause a problem shortly after the caravan is delivered to the customer, because this is the first time the caravan is tested in a real world environment for a long period of time. So why can't the manufacturers spend more time testing the caravans? Well, that just comes down to cost. It would cost a lot of time and money to run the caravans up and fully test all the systems for long enough to ensure there is no problems. And we said that Coachman are the only manufacturer to do this. They are a lot smaller than the likes of Bailey and Swift. And it's great, but problems still occur, but probably not quite so many. So obviously, if there was extra cost involved in the manpower and the space to carry out these tests, that would have to be passed on to the customer, pushing the price of the caravans up in an already challenging market. Another thing I think the manufacturers get stick for are the problems that are not within their control. If a customer has a problem with a heating system, they will see it as a caravan manufacturer's problem, whereas in reality, the manufacture of the heating system is where the warranty lies. The caravan manufacturers put all the parts together but are not in control of those components and how they operate. I never see a comment that says, I'm never buying a caravan with a Truma heating system in it again. It's always that particular manufacturer that the product is set in. Again, it sounds like I'm making excuses for the manufacturers, and I can definitely see why this will come across like this. But they are caught between a rock and a hard place. The rock being the customer's expectations and belief that if they buy something new, there'll be no problems with it. And I can see why, because I buy new things as well, and I did expect the same thing. And the hard place being the ability to be able to produce a product that they can actually sell, which doesn't cost too much or way too much. Another issue the manufacturers have is the dealer network. And again, conclusions are drawn that the caravan industry is like the car industry. In the car industry, the dealer network is a franchise, and the manufacturers have a huge amount of say in how that franchise is run, from the livery and the look of the dealership through to the training of the staff and technicians that work in the dealership. So again, the precision of that control the manufacturers have over the dealership produces a smoother experience for the customer. This just isn't the case with the caravan industry. Dealers are appointed by manufacturers mainly for geographical reasons, and certain levels of standards are required, such as approved workshop scheme and not being a junkyard. But after that, the manufacturers don't have much say about how that dealership ultimately deals with the customer. Swift are trying to address this with what they call the approved dealer program, and they offer extensive training that is available to the dealers, but it's still at the dealer's discretion to get involved. So the dealer has a huge part to play in the process, and in turn we struggle with the manufacturer to produce a caravan that we don't have to finish off at the PDI, or work out how to order parts that turn up right first time and in a timely manner. Talking of which, this is also another issue I spend a lot of time explaining. Why does it take so long for my parts to arrive? I can order a widget for my car and it will be there the next day. But it's the same issue of scale. The caravan manufacturers can't afford to hold all the different parts for several years of caravans in a big warehouse somewhere. They have to order the parts from their supplying manufacturers, some of which are in Europe, and this obviously takes time. I know I'm getting my little violin out again, but it's important to understand the process. If you get the chance, I'd recommend a trip around the factory to see how the caravans are put together. It's so interesting to see how such a complicated piece of kit works, and every time I visit one I'm amazed how they get it anywhere near as good as they do. On that note, I'll be doing a behind the scenes video of the factory process, so be sure to click subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss that. So who are the manufacturers? Are they some faceless hedge fund who give no regard for happy customers and all they want is profit? Well, no, they're not, and I have dealt with them and got to know all the major manufacturers over the years in one way or another. From the smallest independent ones who are sadly no longer with us, to the massive German companies trying to get into the UK market, which is the biggest single market in the world, by the way. And the one thing that is constant with all these manufacturers is the pride they put in their products that they produce. And it has to be that way, otherwise they can't sell them to the end user. They know they're not perfect, but that perhaps is an unachievable goal, especially because the posts keep moving. If we were still making only 3 layouts, only used a caravan for 4 weeks in the summer, didn't expect touchscreen this and that, and weren't worried about grade 3 insulation, then the caravans would probably be spot on. But things move on, and it is up to the manufacturers to keep up with the times. So, having said all this, are our caravans actually rubbish? Do the manufacturers not care about their customers? Well, as I've said, no, I don't think that is the case. But there is room for improvement, and in the future of caravans set to be significantly different with the introduction of electric tow vehicles, the stresses on the manufacturers are only going to get higher than ever. They can and are trying to do better, but I also think that we the customers could be a little bit more understanding. And with a bit of knowledge of what kind of things the manufacturers have to deal with, I think that could be achievable. One last thing to say, we always hear when a caravan has a problem, and if it gets to the forums there is probably more than one, but what we don't often hear about are the thousands of caravans produced each year that have nothing wrong with them at all. And the vast majority, and certainly with the thousands of caravans I've dealt with over the years, we don't see problems that often. We need to get behind the UK manufacturers, which are leading the way in the technology used in the industry. I've had several conversations with a Chinese company who want to get into the market, and if that happens, we'll all have something to moan about. But having seen their caravans, they're a long way off, so I don't think it's going to happen. So to summarise, and to get back to the point, we can't make comparisons with the car industry just because of the difference in scale. Sometimes the dealer network is at fault, not the manufacturers. The huge cost in keeping several years worth of parts in stock means that sometimes these lead times can stretch into weeks and sometimes months. The manufacturers do care because I see them doing it on a regular basis, and they were a nice bunch of people. So that's it. Let the kicking commence. I know I put myself out there and I may deserve it, but I do think it's important to have a bit of an understanding of something before we can comment on it, just like Brexit. If you have found this at least informative and would like to hear more about caravans in general from a dealer's point of view, please hit the subscribe and press the bell button so you don't miss anything. Coming up, I'll be talking about misty windows and why they happen. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.